Hello there, I made this plugin for interaction, which is free and you can use it inside your game without adding any code. It's very flexible, it can be very customized, and you can have custom inputs per interactable. Let's see how this works. So basically, this is a door. I can click F to open it and F to close it. Now, in the other hand, I can have duration based. So here for clicking, here for holding. Clicking is not working. I have to hold, open, hold, close. Or I can have, you see, this is custom input. This is F for input and this is E for input. So we can have different input for different interactables. Also, you can have this duration-based interaction for different use cases. For example, longer I hold this for this ball, bigger the force is that applies to this. And let's jump into it and see how we can integrate this into our project. The way you get the project is by basically going here into the free interaction system and get the download zip folder, and then you get the plugin and add it to your plugins folder in your project. So here's my project called Test Blueprints, plugin folder, and then I have the 5.4 the build version. So you would get the source and you add it here. But if you're a blueprinter, so you would just go here into this release note. We have the free interaction plugin packaged here for you, and you can just download this free interaction system.packages.zip here, which basically gives you the build version of the plugin for 5.2 and 5.4. You can use it directly inside your project. So my project is 5.4. I'm using 5.4 here in my test blueprint function project, which should work as charmed. But if you're using a different version than 5.4 and 5.2, what you can do is pretty easily. You can just add the plugin, download the plugin here, the source file, the same way add it to your plugins folder, and then open your Unreal Engine, go to plugins, find yours will be under project, not install it, because this is the installed version, but you find DR free plugins, you find the free interaction system, and then you package it for your own Unreal Engine version. I also added a note here for you step by step of how to download or package it for yourself for your custom Unreal Engine version, because mine is 5.4. You might have a different version, but if you're using 5.2 and 5.4, you can just download this package and you are good to go. Let's get back to the plugin and into my project. So I am going to integrate the project here. So I'm going to the test. I have this test scene, which is pretty simple. I also have a simple character move around. I can move. I have a physical ball here that is basically physically enabled. Also have the door set up here. This door is basically has no function. I just have some timeline to do some animations for opening, or maybe just using this to open and close the door, but there's no interaction set up here. So let's do this. Let's first go into our player and then integrate the interaction system. So I want my player to be able to open these doors or interact with them. So first, in my player, I need free interaction component. This free interaction component is ready to go and it's ready to work. Basically, this is your window or the way you interact with other objects. So you will add free interaction component to your player or your actor or your character that you are possessing or controlling. I also have a input setup. So I have inputs. I have an input context for two inputs, input F and input E, which they take inputs from F and key. And then I have that connected inside my player control. I'm just showing this just in case somebody don't know how to set up the input. So I have on event on possess on my player controller, enhanced in local player subsystem. and then add input context and adding my context. That's how I'm setting up my input. Now, free interaction component can be handled in two ways. You can get this and call start interaction, which is a custom way if you do some sort of custom way of handling this. But we have this already set up if you just connect this here. So I want this to be defaulted to F, and I don't have to do anything else. Now the interaction should work. If I go here, this should work, but there's nothing to know if the interaction is working or not. The reason for this is we need some UI. So in my begin play, I'm going to add create widgets, and then I'm going to select the widget blueprint that comes with the plugin widgets blueprint base interaction. So when you add this, this requires you to plug in the interaction component and then add to viewport. And when you do this, you can now play, but still nothing happens. But you notice a dot here, so this is basically tells you where you are about to interact with. But the problem is nothing is interactable here. That's why you cannot interact with anything. So we need to tell the system that this door is interactable. How we do this? Let's go into the blueprint for the door and let's add a component. It's called free interactable. So it basically tells the system this is interactable. You don't have to do anything else, and this is now interactable. So you see when you get close to this, it tells you, hey, this is something that you can interact with, and click F to interact. You see the widget is playing some animation as an indicator for the system that is working. But nothing happens. And notice there's only F, there's no details about the door. Let's add the details. Let's go back to the door, interactable component, and here you see a section called interactable, and then you have item visual data. The visual data is what is going to be appeared on the UI. So let's add a name. The name will be door, and the message or description will be open the door. So now when you get close to this, you see you have this F, and it's called the door, and you can press F to open the door. You see you can now interact, and the animation works well. But you notice nothing happens. It's because we haven't used the interactable functions to be useful. So in free interactable, or the component inside the door, I'm going to bind or listen to interaction end. So when the interaction ends, I get this message. So this blueprint tells me if the interaction is successful or not. So I need a branch here, right? And so I have this logic as a flip-flop that basically negates this open every time you click or you interact with it. And then, so I'm going to just go very simple by rotating the door. So we have this door handle that basically rotates this like this when open it, and like this when close it. So now let's try this. You see when we click, it will open the door. Click again, closes the door. Now if we need the animation, we have this timeline that smoothly plays the same value here from 19 to 0 to 0 to 19. Play from start, or just actually play in reverse, which now plays a smooth animation. See? Close. Same with this. They work. But now, let's say I want this door to require holding for it to be open. I don't want this, let's say I want this one to be opened with when I click on it, like this, but for this I want a hold. I don't want this to be opened very easily. So the way you do it is because we have hold interaction implemented, I'm going to click this instance in the world. So I'm not modifying the base class, but the instance in the editor. So I'm going down to the free interactable, select the click or interaction type to for duration, and then from for duration we say the time, which is 1 second. It's too much. Changing this to 0.5, which means now I have to interact with this for 0.5 seconds in order for the interaction to be completed and successful. So if I click now, it's not doing anything, but if I hold it, you see you have a progress bar that is moving. When this completed, the interaction will be marked as successful. Now let me complete this. Opens the door, closes the door. That's how you basically integrate a duration-based interaction. But for this one, it still requires only one click. Cool. Now let's say we want to have this ball, or let's say very simply this cube. Let's say I want to make this one interactable as well. Go into the blueprint, add a component, free interactable. In the free interactable, I have this animation that is going to be played, but for this box, I'm just going to listen to interaction and make sure this is successful. And then when it's true, we are going to use play from start. So now I can also interact with this, but there's no message, right? So we go back to the blueprint, interactable, call this box. The message we can be hit box. You see? F hit the box. Well, let's say we want this to be working with input F. So I'm okay with this input for the door to be F, but let's say I want this to be a different input. That's why in your player and your interaction component, you have a default interaction input action. But you can also have custom input per interactable. So I can go to my BP hitbox, free interaction, and I can set or select a custom input here. You have a section called input, custom input action. You can select IA interact E, which is another input I have set up here in my in my context. So, and here I'm making sure this is also E. I'm going to explain the difference between the two. So the input action is the actual input action, but the E is only for UI. If you look at this, it says a key that can be passed to the I to represent the interaction key. So this key is only for UI and it's only a representation only, but this custom input action is the actual input. So if I go here now, this requires F to open this door, but this box requires E as an input. So if I click on F, it's not working, but when I click on E, it's working. Let's see. Let's say we want to also make this ball interactable. This is a physical ball, sorry. I'm going to add interact, free interactable. I'm not going to change the input for now. I'm going to call this ball. This will be, let's call this throw ball. And let's go here, interaction ended. So when the interaction ended and it's successful, we actually don't worry about successful. We just need to apply some force. So when, okay, yeah, I'm going to explain what this. So every event also passes in the interactor, which is basically this component from the interactor actor. So it gives you the interaction component here if you want to access the owner. So here I'm accessing the owner and using the owner's camera to get the forward direction to be used as the force I'm applying to the ball. Hope that makes sense, but this is not the agenda of this tutorial. All I want to explain is how we can use this to do custom things. So now if I open my game, you see I can interact with this as well. It tells it's ball, and press F to throw the ball. Press F, throws the ball, right? It applies some force to it. let's say I want to change this intensity of the force based on the duration. So you have something also called on-interaction update. The on-interaction update gives you a percentage time that you have to do the interaction. So if you go into the free interactable component, you have something called interaction type. The interaction type is basically means if it's a single click or a duration based. I'm going to change this for a duration based so I can hold on the ball, and it can be hold for up to 2 seconds. And I'm storing this value here as current interaction hold alpha. So basically I know how many of the hold percentage is completed at this point of time. I'm just storing the value here. And when the interaction completed, I'm using that value or the interaction alpha so I can decide about the force. So if it's as low as 0, which means 1 click, it will be 4 units. But if I hold this for the entire time, which means it will be like 2 seconds, the force can be as high as 3,000 units. So the longer I hold the key, the more force I'm applying. It's not the agenda of this tutorial, but I'm just showing you that we have a callback for the update or when you are holding the key, so you can store that time if you want to do some custom stuff with this. For example, here you do not worry about if the interaction or the time is completed or not. You just want that to be used as a force multiplier. So here I can click, it will apply a bit of force, but if I hold on this, the force can be significantly higher. See? So let me try that again. So let's wait. You see the force is too much here. Okay, so now other things you can modify here is you have distance customized per each interaction. So if you go to the player interaction component, you see we have a max interaction distance. Let's set this to 200. That basically means you have to get very close to every interactable object in order to be able to interact with them. So you cannot do this unless you are very, very close to them. Same for this, you have to be very close. I cannot interact here, but I need to be very close. I was actually thinking when I was making this, maybe you want some objects to be interacted far away, but some of them needs to be very close. For example, now I like to interact with the ball when it's very far away, but for the door, I want it to be very close to it, right? So that's why I implemented something else into the system, which means now I can interact from the distance, which is like roughly 12 meters away. I can interact with these. But for example, for the door, I don't want this to be interactable far away because it doesn't make sense, right? So that's why in the interactable component, you have something called interaction distance. The interaction distance is defaulted to 0.0, which means there is no limitation. But for example, let's say I want this to be only interactable in 200 meters. That means even though the interaction component can reach the interactables in 12 meters, but this door or this interactable requires a minimum distance. So it requires me to get close enough as 2 meters in order to be interactable. So I need to get close, so this is interactable. In other words, this is basically a way that allows you to have custom inputs custom interaction distance. So now for the door, I need to get very close. So this works, but for other objects, I can have like distance like this, which is powerful in my opinion. That's why I made this. So you have to get very close in order to be able to close the door or open it. So that's how the interaction distance works. The interaction distance we have here is max interaction distance, like max distance possible to make an interaction. And the one in the interactable is basically the minimum distance required or maximum distance allowed for this interactable, for the interaction to be accepted or marked as successful. If you leave it as 0, that means there is no limitation, and just use the player's interaction distance. The other thing here is any item can have a icon. Now let me just use this icon here for the doors. Let's just use this cube here, the little ugly cube. Now I can get here. You see we have this icon represented here. The icon is small, that's why it's just use this interactable icon that comes with the plugin. You see, you can represent the icons on the UI as well, but this is something you can modify. I will show that in a bit. The other thing we have here is we show with the input, the message. Yeah, that's it for the interactables. But for interaction, we have some more inputs for settings. Sorry. For example, you can change the trace channel to customize what channel you exactly want to trace when you trace for interactables. You can also have this to automatically call the end interaction when the timed interaction ended. This is something you can keep it on. Check for interaction interval is how often we are checking for interaction around us. So if I change this to 1 second, just in case, you see it takes a bit time for the interaction to be detected. Not directly, right? See, it needs some time. It basically updates that each 1 second. 0.1 is pretty flexible. It's not on tick, and it's not very slow, so 0.1 is a good value. You also have advanced section, which allows you to use highlight or not. So if I play this way, I can interact with these, but the highlight is not here. So this is for the case you do not want the highlight for some reason. Or maybe you want to modify the highlight material, which is basically inside the plugin's content, and you can just go here and modify maybe the color, the thickness, stuff like that. It's just something you can customize it for yourself. Also, each interactable has an option to show the highlight or not. So now every item shows the highlight, right? But let's say we just don't want this door to show the highlight. I can just go to the instance, show highlight, close. Now it's not going to show the highlight. That's something I was thinking maybe some people don't want to have the highlight like this. So I have this as option as well. Yes, let's move on to the widgets. You can go to the content, widgets, and then widget-based interaction. This is a very, very straightforward setup for the interaction. You can always get or modify the animations or anything. It's just a very settled way or very simple way of setting up this widget. You can also go ahead and do this. So the way this works is when we start the game, we handle the focus. We basically listen to the focus delegates inside the C++ class, and then we do stuff based on that. Same for the interaction. We listen to the interaction start, update, and then finish, and then we do things accordingly. You can just look into this and do your own modifications if you need this, but this is a very simple setup. It's meant to be modified by the designers or anybody that wants to modify this, but this is a very simple setup for the interaction widget. The final thing I want to talk about is the C++ code, which is pretty flexible, and you can always do your modifications and do your custom things on this component. The structure is very simple: actors, component, and helpers. The helper is, if you look into the widget, you will see this helper function. Use it here. This is something I was thinking to do, to use Common UI and integrate Common UI here, so it's better to be used. But that's something I will leave it up to you, because not everybody is using Common UI and cross-platform features, but that's something you can use definitely. So this F represents the key, right? It's very good for keys with one, like F, G, T, E. It's very good for that. But when it comes to other keys like space and stuff like that, it's not the best. You should do your own changes to make that possible. And more possibly, you can just show images for each key. The way you can do this is we have a function called getInstructionKey, which is a custom one that comes from this blueprint library I made. It's getInstructionKey text, which is used here. You give the instruction component and the instructable component as showed here, and it will give you the name of the input. Sorry, but you can also use the getInstructionKey itself, which gives you the F key. Sorry. The F key is something you can use it inside a map and show an image of the key. Hope that makes sense. I think I explained this well, but this basically gives you the key name, which is for F key, it's just F. For space key, it's word space. But if you want to get the key itself, you will use getInstructionKey method here instead, and you will get the key, and you can use this key to get the image. So it will be something like key images. It will be a F key as the key, or basically just key. And then you change this to a map. And the other type of the map is just going to be an image. Or not image, sorry, it's going to be texture 2D. Yes, so it will be something like this. You have a map, you select the key, let's say space, you will select the image for space, and here you will use this, and you use function find, you integrate this, and you get the image. Hope that makes sense. I don't know if this is how you use interaction system. It's free, and enjoy. Take care, and thank you for watching.